every Monday, you know, your chance to ask the big questions, the big topics, anything on your mind to my good friend Alan Jones. I don't care how out of left field it might be. He joins me right now. Alan Jones, before we get into all of these things, I've got to ask you, Daniel Andrews' appearance at the hotel quarantine inquiry on Friday, we have him on camera saying he would take up the ADF on the 27th of March, and then on he goes for the rest of the year, right up until recently, saying he wasn't aware at all that there was an ADF offer.
Quite.
Now, come on.
Yeah.
You've worked in the top office in this country.
Well, I mean, you looked at this. I'll be looking at this in some detail later. I mean, it's extraordinary. Can't be right on both occasions. And I think on this instance, Daniel Andrews has not told the truth. These are very serious, very, very serious issues that have to be addressed. The biggest issue here, though, in relation to all of these people saying they don't know, and I'll be looking at this tomorrow night, are these industrial manslaughter laws which Andrews introduced to the BRACS legislation to toughen up industrial relations. Now, the aim of the exercise was to catch the corporate tall poppies who may have been, by their behaviour or absence of appropriate action, responsible for deaths or injury or disability in the workplace. So you go after them. Now, unfortunately for Andrews, the legislation does not exempt ministers or public servants. And therefore, had any one of these people indicated that they were responsible for bringing in untrained security officers, then they could have been identified with the deaths that have occurred and action could have followed. I believe action will follow, and I believe that Andrews and many public servants down there are going to be in all sorts of trouble in the months ahead. That'll be the most fascinating aspect of it all. But, look, he should be gone, basically. I thought that the Health Minister behaved with great dignity and credibility. She said, well, if this is the way he thinks about me, I've got to go from the Cabinet, I'm going from the Parliament, I'm going from the electorate. So she's gone, and I think she's done something that is beyond the capacity of Andrews to do.
Yeah, look, I'm going to get into this again tomorrow night and possibly even again on Wednesday.
So it's going on and on.
Look, there's plenty of material there that shows, in my view, that she was very much a scapegoat.
My word.
And decisions taken by others, particularly in the police area and by police ministers, indeed even the Premier, I think are far more egregious than decisions by Jenny Mikakos.
And Peter, they are in the same faction, and they were friends. He hasn't even spoken to her. What kind of person treats a colleague like this, whether they're right or wrong? This is a character statement of Andrews.
Yes, and I have to say, I made the point, I think, to someone, even in the worst of it in Canberra, there was at least a civility, even between, say, Tony Abbott and Malcolm Turnbull after, you know, one deposed the other, etc. There was civility that we haven't seen here inside a government. It's extraordinary. I just want to go to a comment one of my listeners made. You know,
if you're talking about Turnbull and Abbott, the civility would have been on one side, but that's...
You're very kind. Hey, now, one quick comment. You know, viewers don't miss much. Yesterday was this charade of all of these restrictions lifting, but if you look at the detail, industries have gone back if they're unionised industries, but basically not much has changed.
Nothing.
The curfew's gone, but the curfew didn't do anything. One of my listeners, Lynn Harris, says lifting the curfew was a joke. She said, we can't go anywhere. Restaurants and shops are closed. You can't visit your family or your friends. That's a $5,000 fine now. You can't go beyond your 5Ks anyway. She wants to see open small businesses again. She wants to see golf and hairdressers back, of course. You know, let's have all the care that we require, but let's get back to work. And she said, of course, the problem in all of this wasn't hairdressers or playing golf. It was hotel quarantine, the fiasco, she says. She's right, though, isn't she?
Well, they're too smart. They're too smart. Lynn, now listen, your dog can be groomed, but you can't be. The dog can have a haircut, but you can't have a haircut. You can go beyond 5 kilometres, but only to a cemetery. I mean, this is absurd. And small business and gyms and retail outlets and those sorts of outfits are going to the wall. And what about the face masks? I mean, you've got Professor Peter Collignon saying comprehensively today that this is absurd. And then what did he say? His words exactly were the face masks would not have stopped the coronavirus. And he said, oh, this is just my decision. This wasn't a health decision. So this bloke is superior in health advice to epidemiologists and all the rest of it. The bloke's got a serious delusional case and believes, I guess, at the end of the day, he knows more than everybody else. But we've said that all along. I mean, you've got a Nobel Prize winner like Professor Levitt saying lockdowns achieve nothing, and here we are and still in lockdown. Look, I think it's terrible, Peter. I don't know how people psychologically, emotionally or financially are going to come out of this at the other end. When JobKeeper and JobSeeker and those things end, I don't know where the economy is going to go, and the emotional damage that's being done to people in terms of suicide. I've got doctors, I know you got that letter from a doctor too last week, as I did, indicating that the incidence of suicide is far beyond what anyone is prepared to admit. Why wouldn't it be when you lock people up like battery hens?
Oh, my good friend, I live in an apartment and I've still got, 3 or 4 weeks, as with every other Melburnian, of all of this. There's no light in the tunnel. It's all dependent on the whim of one man. Just before we go, you were saying how astute my viewers are. Well, look at Christine Gregory. She posted this question on my Facebook page. She said, being that Alan Jones is by far the best dressed man on television and has so far not worn the same thing twice, she wants to know, how big's your wardrobe? They don't miss much, Alan Jones. They don't miss much.
Well, you know, it's a funny thing, is it? You and I come on TV each night and you think you're trying to solve the problems of the world and doing something very significant, and all they remember is what tie and what jacket you had on. So I think...
Well, don't you whinge? Welcome to a woman's life, Alan Jones.
Yes, absolutely. Okay? Oh, you're amazing. You would look good in a chaff bag, I have to tell you.
Oh, come on. Enough of that. Enough of that.
See you tomorrow night. Okay, bye-bye.